Miguel, an awesome Tekken character that is missing from Tekken 8, at least at the time that this video is being recorded. He's actually one of the better designed and cooler Tekken characters in the last about, I'd say, decade and a half. And he's a beast of a character to fight against. And today I'm doing a redesign of him, so let's go. Okay, so I got requested to do a redesign of Miguel for a Tekken 8 look. This should be some fun. Tekken 8 designs are not as outrageous or odd or over the top as the Tekken 7 ones were. Though admittedly, Miguel's costumes always look pretty cool. Even his Tekken 7 costume, at least his default costume, looked really cool considering how ridiculous it is in theory. The first suit jacket with the pinstripe dress pants and boots, tucked in the boots too. That's kinda wild, but whatever, it fits Miguel somehow. And his moveset matches the way he looks to a T. Honestly, how Miguel comes across is how I always envisioned Paul would stay in Tekken before he became a complete joke in Tekken. But I've talked about that previously on the channel, that's a whole other conversation. But Miguel himself is a really cool character. Honestly, so cool that it baffles me that he wasn't included in the Tekken 8 roster. The only real reason I can think of as to why he was excluded from Tekken 8 is just because, you know, Tekken 8 is the Jin Kazama redemption story. Kinda hard to do that with Miguel still in the game, cause how do you justify that? I still believe they could have tried, but it's much easier to do with Miguel out of the picture. You know, the guy whose family was murdered by Jin in Tekken 6. But still, regardless, I'm actually hoping that Miguel comes back as like some season pass or a later DLC character down the line. Wait, who am I kidding? I don't play with Miguel. I hope he stays gone. I don't need to be fighting a bunch of Miguels online. But no, seriously, he'd be an awesome character to come back, and that's why I'm excited to do this redesign for him. So, let's see what I get. Okay, so I started off Miguel's design with his base pose as usual. The base pose took me a little longer than usual just because I don't know why I was having so many anatomy issues. Well, I know why I was drawing this picture at an angle for whatever reason, so it took me a while before I was actually staring at the sort of pose the way that I needed to. It kept looking strange to me at the angles I was staring at, but once I got that finished and sort of fixed the position of his arms that I needed to do like 1,000 times, it was on to actually doing the design. Coming up with an actual costume design for Miguel was kinda tricky simply because, as I stated earlier, Miguel's designs always look pretty cool and pretty badass, so it was just a matter of designing something that still fit the character and held true to it while at the same time allowing me to be free enough to just give Miguel some cool clothes in a sense. Because, like I said, his Tekken 7 design is kind of wacky when you describe what he's wearing on paper, but looking at Miguel, it looks cool as hell. So I didn't know if I was gonna actually create something that measured up to that. So in my mind, all I just started thinking of was, what would a badass Tekken character look like? Along the lines of like some type of mashup between Miguel and Paul almost. And that's what I sort of came up with here. So giving him like a jacket that had fur on it, which was kind of similar to the Tekken 7 one, but just making it look slightly different. Just a normal jacket and not a suit jacket this time. I came across a design online that sort of had a chain almost going through the jacket, holding the jacket up. It reminded me of Warong's Tekken 7 design as well. I feel like it would match Miguel a lot better than it matched Warong in Tekken 7. You know, the eye patch look. So I gave him that as well, but just had two almost spots on the jacket where it looked like that little chain would be going through, on top of giving him his necklaces from Tekken 7 as well. Then I knew I was going to put a lot of patches and wacky designs on his jeans, but along the lines it just occurred to me to just go ahead and do that on both the jeans and the jacket itself. So I just put like little placeholders in the beginning on his clothes, knowing that I would go back and paint the rest of that in later. And then gave him some pretty normal boots. Most of Miguel's actual look wasn't really going to start to register until I started coloring him, because in the beginning it was just a matter of seeing how everything was going to take place. So then after getting the base of the actual look down packed, it was going back and finishing the line art, sort of cleaning up the sketchy looks as I normally do. Only this time I had to go back and edit the hair because his hair looked like a helmet the first time I drew it. Just looked like a hairy hat that was sitting on top of his head, so I needed to redo it a second time so it looked more Miguel-like, for lack of a better term. It looked like it belonged on his head. Then from there was redrawing the details of his face. I left the facial hair alone because once again, I'd be coming back to that when I did the coloring of it. I just needed the sort of sketch phase of my drawing to have the base of how I wanted his facial hair to look, or at least how I was going to do it. Then just getting the smaller details in, like being a little more in-depth with his belt buckle, adding the little bull horns or whatever that he has on those, doing the little sort of studs or buttons on his gloves that I gave him, and giving him the wallet chain, which I don't know why I did that, I just thought it would look cool. And then filling in his patches in on his pants. From there, it was on to the coloring phase. Before I continue, I'd just like to remind everybody, if you like my designs so far and want to see more of the designs that I have on this channel for various video games and fighting games, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're updated when I post new videos. But never mind all that, getting back to the coloring of Miguel. To make this easier on myself, I just started off by coloring his skin first, sort of making it simple and coloring the things that I knew I was going to use or the colors that I knew I was going to have in the design. Though I must say, I kind of figured I would make this an all black design for Miguel, simply because his other costumes didn't look that way. Miguel has always had a lot of colors in some of his outfits. Not a lot of colors, but it's been like a striking color in the design, like the red in the Tekken 7 outfit, and I think he had a lot of greens and oranges in his Tekken 6 one, at least outside of the Matador looking outfit that he had. So I already knew that I was going to leave this as sort of a dark design, or at least an all black one, but I wanted a specific accent color to sort of make it look cool and piece it together. And for whatever reason, it registered as the color gold to me. I don't know, I thought it would be cool for Miguel to just have a bunch of gold and silvers on. With just black, it would stand out more. I gave him sort of a yellowish gray color for like his fur, and then I went ahead on the jacket, and after coloring it in black, just went back and filled it in with just gold pieces where his patches and stuff were, and just gave him little wacky designs because I really didn't know what I was going to do there. I initially designed his gloves blue. Towards the end, I actually changed that from blue to red, just because I gave Miguel the exposed boxers look like he had in the old Tekken designs that he has in the game. So just went ahead and made it red to match it. No other real reason outside of that. Just the blue was, I don't know, it looked weird after a while. Like it was almost out of place, because to me it kind of is. Outside of that, it was doing more patch designs on the pants. Once again, it was sort of random. A bunch of skulls and weird triangles and crazy tribal sort of designs and stuff on his clothes. Just, I don't know. Just a crazy designer jeans look almost. But if this would be considered a designer jeans, what do I know? But in any event, after coloring that in, going back and finishing his hair and the details of his face, which I hope I got his eyes the correct color, because images that I was looking at for a reference had different eye colors for Miguel. So I hope that's right. I believe it's like a brownish or amber color that he had in Tekken 6 and 7, but who the hell knows. But after that, I started doing the shadows for the design. Once I darkened the shadows in, it really started to pop for me in terms of how I looked in the design. Which I don't know why, maybe I had the opacity too low, but the shadows was coming across real light at first when I was designing this. But whatever, it came along well in the end. But doing the shadows on the hair, which was really important, especially that wild ass hair that Miguel has in the first place, it really does kind of look like a mop on top of his head. But in any event, doing the shading on his boots, doing it on his pants, I sort of designed around pieces of the patches to make it stand out more and look like it had some depth to it on top of the pants. I've made a habit in the past of having patch designs on my redesigns look pretty flat, so sort of remembering to go ahead and do like small bits of shading around it helps out a lot. Then doing the design on his body and the inside of the jacket, filled in the rest of that, and then it was on to doing his highlights, which also wasn't too bad. It was sort of tricky at first trying not to make him look shiny, which he kind of did, especially when I initially did the pants and the jacket, which was supposed to look shiny, but without having the rest of the highlights done on the picture, it looked kind of crazy at first. Made a little bit more sense the more I kept doing the shading on it over time. Filling in the highlights on like the gold chain inside of the jacket, and then on the necklace that I gave him. So starting to be a pretty wild Miguel design. Not that it even looked bad, it just looked different from the previous 2 designs that Miguel has had in Tekken games. Or 3, like I said, if you include the Matador-ish looking design that he had in, I believe, his 6 alternate. Again, we can't talk about that too much for Jen's sake. But finishing the highlights in on his hair, doing the patches in on the shoulders, and the gloves, which I almost forgot about. I used a brush to do the highlights on the fur, just to sort of make that look kind of different in terms of material. Outside of that, it was going back over the line art with specular highlights, just like right over top of the lights that I had in the actual line art for the picture, and just putting all those specular highlights on the right side of his body. In certain areas, I had weird places in like the arms and the legs of the jacket and pants where I still added small specular highlights, at least from like the opposite side of where I had the light source coming from. If that makes any sense, it probably doesn't the way I just worded it, but. And then I went back and cleaned up the last little details of like small highlights here and there and shadows, and recoloring his gloves red, and Miguel was finished. I had this brand new design for him. It doesn't look off kilter for Miguel, and it looks like something that would match like how he looks, plays, and fight in Tekken games. It's not too bad. And the seriousness of most of the designs for Tekken 8, most of them, this sort of matches that. Like I said, it was just some wonky designs for Tekken 7 that I don't understand. Warong's pirate outfit or Nina's wedding dress, like I get story-wise why they had those designs, but it's still sort of out there. So giving Miguel sort of a grounded design for Tekken 8 makes more sense in my mind. But this is just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and how you feel about Miguel being excluded from Tekken 8 despite being a kind of fan favorite character, especially out of the more recent new characters introduced in Tekken. But anyways, as I said earlier, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and you all have a good one, and I'm out.